Hey guys, VaulSC here. Hope that you're having a really good week. So today I'm going to take you through a batrep, a report of a game between Aleph and Tunguska. So you got vanilla Aleph on one side and the Tunguska sectorial of nomads on the other side on the mission Unmasking. Nice and solid ITS mission. If you're planning tournaments, you should usually include this in your lineup because it's nicely balanced mission for a lot of different factions. This will be an over-the-table in-person game, which is a little bit rare for me these days. I've spent the last couple of years really playing on TTS a lot, and a lot of people around here still, aren't getting over COVID, all the mask wearing and stuff. In our country, we're still a little bit slow behind the curve on beating the whole pandemic. So in-person games are less frequent, but we'll take you through this one today. Decided to share it because the photos I got of it are quite good, and secondarily, a very interesting situation comes up in the middle of the game where we find ourselves in a bit of a unique sort of tactical scenario, which is just awesome for batrep. Gives me a chance to commentate and sort of teach you guys something new and to entertain you, really. But the rest of the game and the list and so forth aren't really particularly interesting in terms of the meta or strategy or anything unusual about them. So we'll press on and get into it. The table that we're playing on, explain this to my friend as he came around to play. This is a layout that I actually set up for my YouTube show, Table Game Fun Times. I had the actresses over recently and acting out a little bit of a game on this particular table. So the table itself was set up for the sitcom show, which is my other YouTube content, and it's modified a little bit to make it a bit more practical for a proper competitive Infinity game. But if you notice anything wrong with the map, really it is just down to me putting it in place more for the fictional sort of comedy content, more so than competitive game. But it did turn out to be okay. You can see the good old Space Hawk in the middle of the map there. The idea behind this particular layout was that it was meant for the Raven Eye bow section of the space station for the Durgama takeover campaign, because the next episode of my show, Table Game Fun Times, is about the campaign. By the way, if you guys haven't already checked it out, I do a lot of really cool stop motion animations, which you can see on screen right now, that I'm really proud of. I think you'd really enjoy watching these. So have a look at the link in the video description. I'll just pop it up here as well. And check out the most recent episode. It's really, really cool. I really think you guys will enjoy it. Awesome. Okay, so let's just go and talk about some lists now. This is an Aleph list that I made quite a while ago. This is right after Tag Raid sort of dropped their profiles into N4 in a rude fashion, which kind of disrupted the meta quite a lot. I personally can't really think of any way to play Aleph better than this list. Maybe you guys have a better way of doing it. I just can't think of a better way. And that is something which has started to really become a problem with Infinity in N4. In the previous edition, I would always come back to the drawing board after every game and continually refresh my lists. In the whole era of, some units being much better than others in N4 and only 15 unit slots to use, I come back to these factions that I play, and I can't bring myself to try out units which are obviously inferior to what we've got here. So I'll talk you through why I think this list is the best. Tag's very strong in the meta at the moment. Marut, no exception, one of the better tags in the game. I have bought the new model, by the way. I have it right here. I just haven't painted it. So for this game, I'm using my other sort of proxy miniature, but I have got the Siocast guy right here. More to say about Siocast in a different video, but this guy's ready to be painted up, and I will be using that miniature in future games because I'll keep playing the Marut a fair bit. But the Marut, the thing about him is that he's in a faction which needs to support him with a lot of cheap troops so that you can actually, afford to have him there. And the thing that's really changed about this is that you not only have the net rods and the Lamed rebots, but now you have the Beast Hunter and the Diggers as well. So you're bringing in, highly efficient, optimized units that are cheap, allowing you to afford all of the posthumans and the Marut. And, you've got a wide network of models. And importantly, models that defend your deployment zone where the Marut's going to be weak, okay? So that's why this kind of setup is much more effective than what you were able to do with Aleph before. I used to play OSS before Tag Raid came out, and I've switched really to vanilla Aleph because it's just a superior way of playing in my view. The only thing here which really I think might raise an eyebrow is my inclusion of the humble TR bot. The TR bot is there because you're already going to have the proxy engineer. It doesn't cost much more to have more UID bots. And what you may do sometimes is you'll run the Marut over to the other side of the table, shoot 6 or 7 enemy models, and just camp them there. And having that TR bot is useful for sort of covering the angles they might, walk into close combat with them, depending on how open the map is. Other reason for the TR bot is that the Polaris bear pod's a real problem in the meta. And if you are up against that, then the diggers don't quite cut it. The Marut can only do 1 wound against the bear pod every turn. But the TR bot can sort of potentially scare it a bit more and give it a bit more of a threat. It's a relatively cheap unit, obviously, the TR bot. And again, you've got that willpower 15 engineer to repair it, so it just pops back up from behind cover once it's revived, right? So Proxy Mark II and Mark V are pretty sort of meta, pretty staple, not much to say about them. And of course, one thing you can't do with OSS, but you can do in this faction, is to run that 16-point Myrmidon and have him there to plant the smoke down for the Marut. I haven't really thought about including any of the new Blackwind profiles in this sort of setup. I doubt that I will. There are a couple of profiles that look marginally interesting. Most of them are dead boring and not really inspiring at all. But maybe my vanilla Aleph list might try something else. I do have a alternative version of this list, so where I have the Trip Hammer instead of the Marut, and the Lieutenant is actually Macaon. Then I have more midfielders. I have a Dazju and some Nagas, but that's more for a list that's going to be in a like a non-exclusion zone kind of scenario, and having to contend with the midfield a bit more, that kind of thing, right? My opponent playing a Tunguska, really just having a bit of fun trying some stuff out here. So he's having a crack at the Perseus, Vostok, Fiddler, Link team. They're all, able to be quite mobile. He's got 2 Stemplazons. He was explaining to me that he likes how they've got Super Jump and Climbing Plus, makes them very, very mobile. People do like to take a lot of camo troopers these days, so they're very good with that. And of course, your Evo hacker can even make them assisted fire, so better at shooting. My personal feeling is that if you can downgrade this to a cheap cheerleader that's worth sort of 6 to 10 points, you can upgrade something else in your list to something which goes into a different sort of category and class of efficiency. So I typically don't take sensor bots, or if I do, it'd really just be 1, and it's usually only like Pan-Oceania where I run that. But he's giving them a really good go, so we'll have a look at how they do. Again, I think a more competitive Tunguska list would always include the puppet bots, but this is more of a casual sort of funsies game. We've got the motorized bounty hunters in there as well. I think these are great for Tunguska, very cheap, effective troops, and of course the booty with the reroll is very, very useful. And let's not forget about Raoul Spectre, wherever he is. There he is there, Raoul Spectre. It's a bit of a feast or famine unit, really. You've got to be in the right situation, right time, and pass your combat jump roll. But if he does get in there, he's pretty effective at what he does. So he will be a bit of a feature of this game. So we'll have a look at the game coming right up. Here it is. So I won the initiative roll to begin with, and I opted to take the first turn. Not just because that's sort of a bit of a meta thing to do at the moment. It's more because thinking about this matchup, I knew that there wasn't really thinking his army list which he could just stand up in partial cover that would withstand the Marut. So I knew that he'd have to actually hide everything. Anything that he's not hiding is going to get shot at, and that would be a mistake. So that would allow me to push forward through the exclusion zone. I know I'm not up against any more Rands or anything like that. And it would allow me to just get a head start on pressing the buttons and move over to shoot at least one of the HVTs in my first turn, putting me in the lead. What I can then do at the end of my turn 1 is to actually camp the Marut in partial cover and the TR bot in partial cover and just let him shoot those things. It would really be quite costly for him to try and wear them down. I've got the engineer in place to revive them. I could still win the game with just the posthumans potentially. So I felt like going first would allow me to just grab the initiative and then actually set up those hard AROs for his turn, knowing that it would be unlikely for him to retaliate and really come back and get the buttons at the same time. And it would allow me to actually look at what he had deployed, and if he really had taken a drastically different list with maybe Salamandra or something which has a lot of active turn shooting, then what I can do is just punch some buttons and then hide with the Marut and the TR bot if I really, really want to. So I felt a bit more comfortable about taking first turn for that reason. All right, so the setup, this is looking at my deployment from the right-hand side. By the way, this area down the bottom of the screen is where I've deployed. So Flash Pulse Bot here, a Digger which picks up an armor bonus. This pink HVT is actually the real designated target. That's the one that my opponent will be trying to kill once he figures it out. Net Rod at the back, another Flash Pulse Bot further throughout there. In the center here, you can see Hippolyta. She is just simply representing the Myrmidon. The Myrmidon, I don't have the model for. Hippolyta's an awesome model in terms of the physical miniature. The actual rules for Hippolyta, I'm very, very disappointed with in this edition because you compare her to Machaon, and Machaon is just almost strictly a better model. I mean, there's a few little rules that Hippolyta has that Machaon doesn't, but they're very similarly priced. They have very similar gear, and Machaon just has a few extra things which are, you know, kind of clutch, whereas Hippolyta doesn't have those things. So yeah, she really is only a stand-in proxy, unfortunately. Now, further up, you see a red token here. That's the Liberto and his mine further afield. The Shukra Consultant must-have in any Aleph list is right here, with the other Digger who's picked up grenades. Beast Hunter up here, prone. I'm not ready to stand him up here, but I will later. Plus his mine nearby. Then on the left-hand flank, you've got the TR bot in this little sort of ensconced sort of parapet position. If he goes prone, he'll be behind that little low wall. Another net rod, of course, and the bot back here. Another HVT, of course, is unmasking. There'll be 3 HVTs further afield. One's on the extreme right-hand side. And remember, the pink Candy Double Girl is the real designated target. Okay? So my opponent deploying 2 bikes on the right-hand side here. One of them already has a Red Fury, picks up a multi-rifle, and the other one picks up, I think, +2 armor or something. Sensor bot up front, prone, and a Flash Pulse back here, not prone. In the center of his deployment, he's got Perseus, Fiddler, Evo bot, Puppet Master back here. I think there's a Puppet Master. I'm not too sure if I had his list 100% right, by the way. Left-hand side, you've got the Securitate team with the Feuerbach standing up. So again, inviting me to shoot him. He doesn't necessarily know I have a Marut, though. So there is that. With the Interventor at the back here. Sensor bot further up front. And these little camo markers are actually not camo markers. They are HVTs for the unmasking mission. He's not using any camo. Another shot of the extreme left-hand flank. You can see a couple of different miniatures. So there's the extreme left-hand there, and there's another one here. Those are the HVTs we were just talking about. Okay, and there's a bit of a close-up on his wonderful Securitate Feuerbach person. Right, another close-up. I just took a few close-up pics of the bikes. They are very well painted, I must say so. And, of course, this wonderful Marut here coming down as a reserve trooper. This is probably the last time I put this miniature on the table because, again, the brand new guy is getting painted. He'll be ready, and he's going to look marvelous once we've done that. And, of course, eventually we'll do a Table Game Fun Times episode where this guy will be in some stop motion, I hope, if we can get Kira back on the show. So yeah, there's the Marut, just sort of central table position, not too far away from the position of the Myrmidon for throwing smoke and all of that. And right behind them is the these are models I got proxies for. They are proxies, by the way, not just proxy miniatures, but actually proxies in the game, post-humans that is. This is the engineer. There's a little Yud bot right behind on the other side of the wall. And the other Yud bot's taking care of this TR bot, of course, if it goes down. The Mark V, just as close to the center of the table as it can, because I'm going to want to move up and press the button that's behind this silver crate right next to the Space Hawk. And there you go. This Digger over here, and another Yud bot behind. I just can't stop taking photos of this miniature. All right, the Posthuman Mark II is deployed right at the edge of the exclusion zone, ready to poke up behind that little wall up there where the first objective's going to be. Further up here, behind those crates, there's Securitate Feuerbachs just sitting there, but I feel confident that I'm going to be able to knock that down with the Marut. You usually expect the Marut to beat it, so let's turn our attention to that. Already we have a photo of the Mark II moving over to touch the console. I can't remember if I've even talked about this sort of Feuerbach firefight, But let's just discuss this. So very first order of the game, tactical awareness on the tag, moves out into line of sight of this Securitate. I'm hitting on 15s and he's hitting on like 12s on 2 dice. So my opponent rolls a crit immediately. It is double action and I think armor piercing. And it's a crit, so I've got to take 3 saves. And normally that kind of thing would be heartbreaking. It's like, oh my god, it's terrible. But if you think about it, the tag's still armor 4, plus cover it's armor 7, and it's got to beat damage 14 or something like that. And it's got 3 structure points, and I've got a willpower 15, like, engineer right behind it, and I've still got, like, a billion orders. So getting crit at this point is not really a big deal. I'd much, much, much rather be crit right now than in a clutch situation later on with a specialist or something like that. So he hits me, the Marut passes all of his saves immediately, spends 1 more order, and just clears this guy off the table, never to be seen again. So that's just kind of how it works, and one of the reasons why, you know, you probably shouldn't deploy something in partial cover on the first turn. If you feel like your opponent might have a tag or might have something pretty beefy to deal with it. So yeah, there is that. If you're a really experienced player, you know, understanding Aleph, you may know that if your opponent says they've got Strategos, that might mean that they are playing a Marut and vanilla Aleph, because the I don't think that the Shukra consultant is actually allowed to be a lieutenant. Yeah, so in vanilla Aleph, you can't actually have him as your lieutenant, so you won't actually have Strategos in vanilla Aleph unless you take the Marut, so that's a bit of a giveaway. So my opponent did have that information available, but, you know, just not familiar with the faction. All right, so play on. That Mark II proxy posthuman moves in and boops the button, and we find out that this little HVT nearby is a decoy, but I'm going to be going after it anyway. So this photo is taken indicating the position that I was thinking about moving him to, where he sort of moves out a little bit, trying to stay out of line of sight, zone of control of the sensor bot, which is nearby, because I'll get hacked, which I don't really want, but also in line of sight of this thing. And after thinking about it for a bit, I decided to do it a different way and move around here to just shoot at the repeater instead, because he's got that sensor bot just sitting there, and it was really hard for me to get line of sight to this little HVT without coming into repeater range of zone of control. So I realized I had a few orders up my sleeve. The posthuman, again, this is a proxy model for a proxy. It's a proxy, is shooting at the sensor bot, kind of like medium range, so -3 overall, but you know, I've got mimetism -6, I've got 2 shots, and luckily the posthuman does take it down, knocks it out, which allows me to move through here. Couple of orders to knock out this HVT decoy. The first one, he crit dodge. My opponent getting a little bit lucky for a change. But then the second order, I'm going prone, using the second shot skill to blast him, and I did indeed take that out. So we're left with a posthuman who's kind of out of position. Like, I'm ending the turn with the posthuman right in enemy territory. She is ready to take out another HVT, but I'm expecting him to just pounce on this and kill the posthuman straight away. I don't really mind. If he's spending orders to take her out, she doesn't really generate any orders. She's relatively cheap. She's done her job. She's pressed a button. She's killed an HVT decoy. And I've also got the Marut back there sort of watching over her a little bit. So my opponent's not going to be able to achieve much if he spends too many orders just on this posthuman. The TR bot, just moving out here. The TR bot is quite heavily restricted in where it can shoot. By the way, installed Windows 11 recently. Huge mistake. I hate Windows 11 already. I really hate it, but we're just going to see if we can do a bit of drawing. So this is the extreme left-hand flank where there's an alleyway that he can flank me with his bikes. So the TR bot is stopping that. There's also a line through here to the front of the Space Hawk where it sort of shoots anything coming into my side of the table near to my deployment zone. This forklift, though, is cunningly placed on the table to avoid giving this position here too much line of sight. So the TR bot can't really see into his deployment zone area here, which is for the best. You know, you don't want to design your table that badly. So that's been set up, and the Beast Hunter, again, proxy miniature, which I've brought in here. Beautiful looking Beast Hunter stands up so that he can actually use his Panzerfaust on the area that the TR bot is not covering, which I expect his bikes to sort of rush at me from. So he's well positioned here. The Marut just moving around so it can actually cover the other side of the Space Hawk. This will actually not be protecting the posthuman, so if I, again, Windows 11. Okay, let's go click marker. I'm going to use some yellow. So he's got this line here. There is a objective right through here. The post-human is behind this particular wall back there, so the Marut can't see that. The real silhouette size for the Marut is like this, by the way. This miniature is way bigger than the silhouette actually is, and me and my opponent agreed that this building here would be infinitely high throughout the game. Same with the Space Hawk, unless you get on top of it, and the other little buildings, which are like cubes, like buildings like that. So the Marut is really just, covering this bridge here and the middle of the table like that, which actually is quite a lot of coverage. And it means that if he dares to shoot at me with like a Vostok or something, I can really easily pull back behind cover. And by the way, he's brought a list which has no HMGs, no big guns. And I did text him before he came over saying, dude, bit of an open table today. I did say that to him, but he's still come without a lot of ranged guns, so it makes my life easier as a Marut player. Okay, so Digger moving nearby to these two people here. If he does try and sort of sneak past and go for the points, having a Digger in position will be really, really helpful. The other Digger, no, this is the same Digger, just carefully positioning and sort of juking and jiving just to make sure he's going to be able to chain rifle anything coming into either Candy Double or our Walker over the side, and the Walker is actually one of the HVTs. And on the left-hand side, the Imperial Judge here, another HVT, very hard to get to, but the other Digger's just camping this other objective. I just want to be able to dodge and come out behind cover and drop prone and remove prone status if he comes too close to hitting the buttons. I then changed my mind about where the Marut wanted to be and moved him to the other side. So just to explain that, he was here, so we thought about actually covering from that side of the table. I've moved around here, and I'm actually covering through that area instead, which is a bit of a different position, but that's where we wanted to be, and I've sort of just pulled him back a fair bit. Okay, and Digger just wasting in order to just improve his position slightly, and now we have Tunguska turn 1. So he's charging out with his Red Fury motorbike, and this is dangerous because his first move around the corner, and he's not using a Petrus, by the way, he's taking the Mimetism, it just puts him plain in line of sight of that Beast Hunter with the Panzerfaust, and I have good range, he's got bad range. Luckily for him, I didn't connect with it, and the bike can continue on moving. The Beast Hunter, you can see there, just plapping away with his Panzerfaust, missing completely, and then the bike continues going, and he's trying to get past the Digger. The Digger is just dodging here until he can come into line and start using his chain rifle. I really want him to just go after the Digger just by shooting me, because it's just him spending orders that are not really killing any of the beefier stuff that I've got, and the Digger takes a while to chew through, and he's not spending models moving up and pressing buttons, which is great for me because it gives me another turn of, repositioning the Marut, getting the buttons myself, killing the HVT, and then setting up the arrows again. So Digger with the plus 3-inch dodge, whipping himself out of cover. The bike just trying to get past. The bike does actually manage to kill the Beast Hunter in the background at the end of it. We also have a move here from the Sensor Bot, just pulling ever so slightly out of cover, staying prone to go after the Beast, so the Digger in the distance. The Digger just too far away from him, does successfully dodge out around the corner, and is just making a nuisance of himself, basically. That's what Diggers are amazing for. 14 points, and you get, easily 20 to 30 points worth of value out of them. Just one of the most broken, undercosted things in the game, in my view. So now we have the bike moving further around, and I want to talk about this because this might not make a lot of sense here. So what he's actually doing is he's moving around through here, taking a free chain rifle blast from my Digger, who's positioned there. And this is one of his HVTs, by the way. And what he's doing is he's bringing the Red Fury in against my TR bot, okay? Which sounds a bit weird because the TR bot is just going to shoot him out in the open, -3 for Mimetism, needing 8s. Whereas the bike is just going to be shooting good range span, -3 for cover, needing 11s on 4 dice. So it's 4 dice each, 11s versus 8s. He has the advantage there. It's just a little bit risky. And if he does take out the TR bot, I can easily repair him. and he's actually eating a free chain rifle from the digger as this happens. So I was kind of like surprised by this, that he would throw the bike away really for not much gain here. The reason why he's doing it is that he wants to drop Raoul's Spectre into my deployment zone, but he's had a careful look at the situation and seen that the TR bot is the main thing shutting that play down. So what he wants to do is just go out in a blaze of glory, play for the win, no risk, no reward, and he just wants to try and just sacrifice his Red Fury to take out the TR bot, with not very good odds, by the way. 11s versus 8s, if he gets one hit through and I pass the armor save, he's still tanking a chain rifle save. It's not wonderful. And sadly, I almost wish this had worked for him, but sadly, it doesn't work. The TR bot wins, in fact, rolls a crit, and the bike is wiped out. So unfortunate stuff here. Bit of a loss for Tunguska in that situation. Okay, Interventor moving up and going after my proxy posthuman. You can see her poking out from above that behind that platform. That posthuman is prone, so there is no line of sight here, but it does allow the Interventor to move up, hit me with an Oblivion, and then pull back. Again, extremely risky move, because this is his lieutenant. He's got no chain of command. It's willpower 15 on his side, willpower 15 for me. He's got 2 dice, I've got 1. Oblivion is AP against the BTS-9 of the Interventor. Again, this is just a crazy dangerous play. It did manage to work out for my opponent. Unfortunately, his Red Fury didn't, but the Interventor does work out, and she's hit by an Oblivion, and that basically loses her hacking equipment, etc., etc. So, yeah, that happened. There's the isolation signal there, and moving on, the Evo bot puts up control jump, which will allow Raoul Spectre to get +3 in his efforts to land into enemy territory, and here is the play. Now, I must say, we're 26 minutes into the video, and this is the point, in my opinion, where the game suddenly starts to become really fun and interesting. What my opponent's trying to do is land Raoul behind the Marut and then go into close combat with the Marut. If he achieves that without getting stunned or flash pulsed or flamed or whatever, then he can kill the Marut and, game on. Maybe he has a really good chance of winning. But the silly thing about this is that, first of all, dropping next to the Marut gives everything nearby a chance to dodge and turn around, shooting him as he goes into close combat. The Marut's not guaranteed to be wiped off the table. I can repair him later. And even though he can deploy this in a position where the TR bot actually won't be able to affect him, it's on the other side of the Marut where the flashball spot that you can't actually see pictured will affect him. So just to explain that again, and oh god, I just hate it how it's like a small window. So the TR bot is over this side of the battlefield and will have a line of sight around here. But the silhouette of the tag is like that. So he's in a bit of a shadow there of the TR bot, but I've got a flashball spot over this side of the table, which is just shooting him from this angle, right? So flashball spot, good range, so willpower 13 goes up to 16, -6 for the mimetism on Raoul, 10 or less to hit him with the stun, and then if he fails either one of the saves, then he's stunned and just can't kill me in close combat. So my opponent just wanted to go for it anyway. He just thought, man, if I don't do this, it's going to be a really hard game, but if I do it, I might have a really good chance of winning. So Raoul does go for the land. He 75% chance of sticking it. I think it might actually be more than that. Let's have a look at his stats. So let's have a look at Raoul. First 13, so 16 or less. So it's like what is that? 80%, isn't it? And he does stick the jump, so he does land. So that gives everything nearby a chance to turn around and, shoot at him as he's trying to do stuff. We both hold our breath and roll the dice to see if the flash pulse does connect. And there's a small part of me that actually was hoping that it fails, because that suddenly makes the game really interesting. I have to sort of fight from behind without the Marut, and the game would become quite desperate and close. And I'd still have a chance of winning. I mean, the posthumans are out in the field. They're still ready to do stuff. But my opponent does get hit by the stun, fails the save, as you expect at that point, and can't actually attack for the rest of this turn, which is, a bit of a shame. Not only that, but my engineer posthuman is able to turn around, giving her, a shot with the combi rifle at this point. The Marut, importantly, fails the dodge to turn around, so Raoul is still there. But this is the point where the game gets even more interesting, if we have a look at this. So what's happening here is that Raoul, even though he's stunned, can attempt to dodge into close combat. If he simply decides to walk into close combat, the Marut can respond with a close combat attack and just whack him for free. And he also, wants to avoid the combi rifle from this post-human engineer nearby. Now, apologies for players who are very new and not familiar with the nuances of the rules. This commentary is about to get a little bit technical, so you've been warned. Bear with me here. Infinity the Game in N4 has gone through some FAQs and erratas and updates recently, and one thing that they've changed in this game that wasn't really a thing before, and unfortunately this is a bit unintuitive. What's changed is that you're allowed to declare a ballistic skill attack or a close combat attack without it being legal at the time you declare it. So the Marut or Raoul Spectre can declare a close combat attack before they've reached base contact with the enemy. It's just that it becomes an idle. It's invalidated unless you do achieve close combat, base contact by the end of that order. So the resolution step of the order kicks in and you resolve it and that close combat attack can be made. All right, so with that in mind, as Raoul is attempting to, bait an ARO out of me and move into close combat with the tag, the correct play for the tag really is just to declare a close combat attack. That way, if Raoul just decides to move into base contact, I'm attacking him. And if he dodges and then moves into close contact, at the very least, it's a face-to-face roll between my close combat attack and his dodge, right? Raoul actually can't declare close combat attack at the moment because he's stunned, so that makes it a little bit more interesting. Me and my opponent talked through the nuances of this rule and basically started applying these rules partway through the game. This is not a game that's played between two people who have, scrutinized and studied the intricacies of the zone of control rules before the game and then done everything perfectly during the game. We started talking about this partway through and giving each other suggestions about what we could each do in the situation, and that's where it started to become quite fun. So what's happening here with the Marut is that I'm not actually declaring close combat, I'm declaring a dodge, because what I wanted to do is be able to get the tag out of the way of a Raoul if he just dodged into close combat, but also spin around in case he failed his dodge and get the chance to flamethrower him. The other thing that's going on is that Raoul is wanting to dodge into close combat so that he can actually avoid any of the shots that he's taking, for example, from the combi rifle of the post-human. So you've got several orders being spent here where the flash pulse bot is firing at him and the combi rifle's firing at him, and those rolls in particular are beating his attempt to dodge and stopping him from actually dodging into close combat. I then pointed out to my opponent that if you want to, you can declare dodge with Raoul, and if my Marut declares a dodge as well, you can actually declare a short skill move with your second short skill and move into base contact with a Marut, meaning that if I fail my attempt to spin around with the tag, you've actually ended the order in base contact with them. And once we got to that understanding, Raoul had eventually made it into base contact with the tag, and I hadn't killed him. I'd stunned him, but I hadn't killed him. So that's what makes this situation so interesting, is that in my following turn 2 for vanilla Aleph, you've got the situation where Raoul is in base contact with the tag. He's not dead. He's no longer stunned anymore. Now, if I shoot at him, it's a -6 penalty for mimetism and another -6 penalty for close combat. So at -12, any shots that miss will hit the Marut automatically. So it'd be fine if I was shooting close combat maybe with MSV2. The tag can withstand a little bit of punishment, but the tag is the only thing in the list that does have MSV2, and it is the thing that's in close combat. So I can't really shoot in close combat as effectively with my TR bot, for example. What's going to happen there is I'm going to be most likely like twos to hit the roll, and everything else hits the tag, and that wouldn't be particularly effective. Plus, I think the rail's on the wrong side of the tag anyway. So, very interesting turn of events. We'll talk about how we actually deal with this shortly, but that happened. That really did happen. Interventer just hiding away behind the wall here. And with his remaining orders, he's jumping around here with Perseus and Fiddler. The important thing being that with Raoul tying up the tag in close combat, the tag's no longer able to ARO. His line of sight is reduced to just nothing, just close combat. So he can't shoot across the table anymore against these fellows. So it allows him to just leap and bound around the table here and go after the post-human. My opponent does actually end up triggering a reset, because that's something I'm allowed to do if he comes in zone of control. And believe it or not, willpower 15 on the post-human actually has a reasonable chance of passing, even at -9, and she does, in fact, shake off the isolation, which was kind of comical. So the Harris moving in, just running around the side here, there ensues a little bit of a firefight between the post-human and Perseus. I'm blasting off just templates with the boarding shotgun against him. Perseus ends up getting wounded at some point, but does successfully come in behind the post-human and finally ends the turn by walking into whack her with a sword. But unbelievably, even though I'm taking like 3 saves here, I passed 2 out of 3 of them, putting her into NWI, meaning that he ends the turn not just in close combat with Raoul and the tag, but Perseus and the post-human not having actually finished her off yet, which is kind of comical as well, because if I find a way of actually shooting into the combat and killing only Perseus, then I might even get to spend another order on my post-human there. Alrighty, so turn 2 begins for Aleph, vanilla Aleph, and I had to think about what I was going to do about Raoul, all right? So luckily the tag's not destroyed at this point. I get the full benefit of the Strategos Lieutenant Order and the tactical awareness and everything like that. But here's the problem. So there's a Myrmidon nearby, which could walk into close combat with Raoul and get the benefit of +1 burst for having a friend there. But Raoul is actually NWI, so not NWI, he does NWI, but the rule I'm thinking of is Natural Born Warrior, sorry. He has that and Martial Arts Level 2 and CC 22. So a Myrmidon will not be able to use the benefit of martial arts, while Raoul will benefit from that, meaning that even with +1 burst, I'm actually not likely to take him down. As stated, if I shoot into the close combat, it's extremely unlikely for me to actually do enough damage to Raoul to kill him, but I will put a lot of damage into my tag, and I won't really achieve very much else for that turn. If I simply ignore Raoul and just go after Perseus and press some more buttons and so forth, what's going to happen is that in Nomad turn 2, I then lose my tag. The Nomads can push up. I don't have much in the way of arrows, and he might just start taking objectives back off me. So that's also not a very comfortable situation. I do have a chance to win even if that happens, but again, not the most comfortable situation. Now, believe it or not, the proposed solution here is actually the Digger, the Humble Digger. For 14 points, you can bring in a guy who actually does stand a chance of beating Raoul, because the Natural Born Warrior effects will basically both be in play, so neither side can use martial arts, and the Digger only has 1 point of CC less than Raoul, who's a super god of close combat. And the Digger actually has +1 burst naturally and the help of the Marut, so guess what? We're moving the Digger. So the Digger starts the turn around here and has to move up here in the face of one single little Vostok, right? So the Vostok has 1 chance to take him down. The Digger, of course, can sustain a wound before dying. So he'll have to crit me to stop this from working. Perseus is locked in close combat, rather comically. So the Digger moves up here and dodges and doesn't actually even get hit. So we do get off there without any trouble, right? So moving on from that position, the Digger is now moving through the windows here. I'll just get my cam out of the way so you can see that door number 1 he's entered through, and door number 2 he's leaving through. And he's just walking his way towards Raoul here. So you can see what's going on. The Digger's going to try and pile into close combat. So there it goes. He's walking through into a point where he's almost ready to just walk in. Look at that model. Look how ominous that thing looks. I love it. My opponent is actually attempting to dodge now. I believe it's legal for him to leave close combat and re-enter it with his 2-inch move. And the benefit of him doing that is you might just sort of find a more awkward place for him to position himself, making it harder or costlier in terms of orders for the Digger to get around there. Okay? So now what I'm doing is, because I've got the entire turn to try and deal with this, is I'm bringing in the Myrmidon anyway. And the plan here is just for the Myrmidon to dodge his way into close combat and actually provide a further body there. But also the Myrmidon's there as a backup, because if I really do lose the Digger and I become desperate, the Myrmidon can have a go at it in the active turn with the +1 burst and maybe get lucky and kill Raoul anyway. Now, another awkward thing that comes up here is that if I move and trigger a zone of control arrow from Raoul and then use the second shot skill to move into base contact with him, I believe it's technically possible for Raoul to simply declare close combat attack, which will affect me by the end of the order if I make base contact with him, which is not something that I particularly want because, again, he's better than me at close combat and will just bash me. However, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, as you guys love to do, if I move next to Raoul, declare a dodge, and if I pass and he fails, then I can use the dodge movement to go into close combat, and it won't provoke any arrows like a CC attack. So yeah, I'm attempting that, and that's basically what happens. It does take a little bit of maneuvering and attempting, but the Myrmidon does eventually get around here and just clocks him. When I say clocks him, I mean, gets into combat with him. So a beautiful little looking setup here. We've got the Marut just waiting, the Digger just waiting, and the Myrmidon jumping into his back. I did have a crack at doing it again with the bot, but the bot just wasn't able to move in, and I realized actually to my horror that every time I move this bot, it gives Raoul a chance to actually dodge out of close combat and back into close combat with just the Marut. Again, we're in some pretty grey territory for the rules, and I'm sure that we're all going to learn something from the lawyers that post into the YouTube comments, but idea being is that I felt that Raoul could actually escape the double up by me doing this, so I just left the bot there, and luckily, at the point that I realized that, Raoul failed his dodge. And finally, we have this situation. The Digger spends his order, moves in, and attacks Raoul in close combat. Raoul attacks him back. Natural Born Warriors are in effect, and Raoul has CC 22, whereas the Digger is CC 21. So he's got 1 point of an advantage against me, and unfortunately for me, I really just have this AP CCW, so it's only going to just do 1 wound at a time. Having said that, I am on 4 dice because the Digger is +1 burst in close combat naturally, and he has the Marut and the Myrmidon helping him for another +2, taking him to 4 dice against Raoul. Okay? Raoul promptly rolls a 17, and I roll like an 18 or something and just barely beat him, or like draw against him, not killing him. And then we try again, and he rolls another 17, but I then manage to hit him again. But it was kind of scary because what could quite easily happen is that Raoul does roll a crit and I just, flub my attacks and the Digger then dies. And I've then got like all these guys nearby to Raoul and Raoul could just fight his way out of it. Arguably, I do have the backup plan of that Myrmidon. The Myrmidon can conceivably beat Raoul with the +1 burst being active, but it just becomes a little bit harder. What does eventually happen, as we both expected, is the Digger eventually crushes him and beats him, and that's the end of Raoul. But what this situation has done is, first of all, it's entertained us, and secondly, it's taught us a little bit about zone of control shenanigans and about Raoul, Spectre in general, but of course confirms something that we already knew, and that is that Diggers are a little bit too good for 14 points. All right, the tag has been freed, so he moves over and he can get line of sight to Perseus. At this point, I'm perfectly happy to sacrifice my proxy post-human Mark II, shooting into close combat with shock rounds, wiping both of them off the face of the earth in a blaze of angry glory. And then the tag just repositions to the flank a little bit, just holding back. I don't really want to be too close to the Fiddler, because if the Fiddler gets into close combat, again, it's a real threat, just like Perseus was, and I don't really want that. So just staying a little bit back, but importantly covering the position of these two HVTs, noting that the pink one here is the real one. So there's such a massive swing of objective points if your opponent takes out your designated target and you don't take out theirs. So if that happened, he could probably pull the game back. So much so, in fact, that I was just feeling really grateful to have my Marut. I decided to pop him back to the next set of boxes behind that, so I've actually pushed it back even further, because I want to stay out of range of the Vostok, and I just want to be really careful about, keeping him around. And the Engineer's a little bit further away at this point. Proxy post-human Mark V, moving through to the middle of the table, trying to go after the objectives. He does eventually get through here, but he actually fails the willpower check. That's okay, though. He's helping to protect it against enemy specialists in the midfield. My opponent now moving out with his other bike, just trying to zoom around and get into range here. This one only has the SMG, and the Digger's easily able to avoid that. The Vostok now having a go at taking on the tag. Unfortunately, it is a tag. The tag's in the better range band. He does put up assisted fire, as you can see from this photo, and he does move around here to try and take me on. But again, the tag is just in too good of a position, and he's just in full cover there, and the Vostok just doesn't manage it. Unfortunately, gets blasted. Fiddler now moving through. Fiddler desperately just trying to close the gap and do what she can. If she can close the distance with the tag, again, quite difficult. That's a chance to get back in the game. But to do this, she's got to go through the flash pulse of this post-human in the background here, and it crosses the path of my TR bot as well. So Fiddler is destroyed by that. Vostok, this is actually the point in the turn where he does go after the tag, but it's also the point in time, losing an order here on the wound on the tag, but the tag does actually defeat him, and we ended up calling the game at this point. So quite a fun one because of the little interaction there with Raul, but ended up being quite one-sided for Aleph. I feel like we would have had quite a close and interesting game too if Raul had, just gotten lucky and survived the flash pulse and taken the tag down in his active turn, all of that fun stuff. I mean, what could have potentially happened is that Raul lands and I miss the flash pulse, and then he moves into close combat with the tag and whacks it with his weapon, and then I hit with the flash pulse, stunning him, and the tag is maybe rendered unconscious, which I can just repair later, and in my active turn, because he's no longer in close combat, I can just shoot him to death. So there were other ways that I could have recovered from that situation, but it was a real fun one. Hopefully we get a chance to do more of these sort of in-person live-action bat reps, slideshow bat reps, I should say. But in the meantime, if you haven't checked out Table Game Fun Times already, give it a go. We've got another episode possibly coming out at the end of this month, which is all about how the girls went with Durgama Takeover. We're going to be having a bit of fun with that campaign and some more stop-motion stuff. There will be a stop-motion sort of thing on this particular table that you've just witnessed, but it will be between Ikari Company and Corregidor. So look forward to that. See you guys later.